Hey guys, I wanted to talk today about the value of not knowing. Now, what do I mean by not knowing? Surely we want to know stuff. We want to fill our heads with information and insight and develop mastery and skill in certain things and read lots of books and become knowledgeable experts on various things, especially in preparation for those actions and projects that we want to take part in and new things we want to start. We want to feel ready. We want to know that we have the knowledge and we have the expertise before we set our minds to various things. Now, the reason I want to bring up this topic is because it's a very interesting one, because it associates very closely to our unwillingness to take action. I don't know about you, but when I feel I'm not ready and I feel like I don't know enough before embarking on something new, whether it be starting a new business or starting a new project or writing a new article or becoming a coach and approaching people and having to deal with that scary sales call with new potential clients, and you think to yourself, I don't really know enough. So what I'll do is I'll step back and I will do some more studying. I'll spend another month studying. I'll go and do this course. I'll go and take this class. Now, I think that's the issue here, isn't it? Because we need to be productive in life. We need to be doing projects. We need to be starting things. Mark Twain said the secret to getting ahead is to just get started. But how do we start stuff if we're scared of being rejected because of our perception that we don't know enough? Well, if you think about it rationally, in order to do more stuff, in order to start things, in order to embark on projects and drive through the fear, or even just get on with it without feeling any fear, we need to be without that big anchor that tends to hold a lot of people down, which is worrying that we don't know enough. If we are okay with not knowing enough, then suddenly action starts to take place. Does that make sense? So if you have a project coming up and you're worried that you don't know enough and you feel that you need to spend some more time researching and planning, you're not going to get started. You're not going to get around to finally taking the courageous act and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start this project. No, you're going to go off and study. But if you have the philosophy absorbed into your psyche that says, it doesn't matter that I don't know everything, I'm going to act despite the fear of rejection or failure. I'm going to act despite feeling and knowing in reality that I don't know it all, I don't know enough. There's a lot of power in that, because that allows us to move, that gives us momentum in life. And I think those of us who are going to get ahead, those of us who are getting ahead, and those of us who are really succeeding in massive ways, are not necessarily the more intelligent among us. They are the people who are able to take action despite knowing that they are not an expert. So there's the problem there, that we don't act because we don't know enough, and it's very human and it's very understandable, but there are ways to improve this situation. We don't need to go through life stunted and static and stuck because we feel we don't know enough and we feel we need to be perfect in order to submit that thing or create that article. So the way to get around this that I found really useful is to reframe our idea of what it means to not know. We need to rethink and change our perception of the concept of not knowing. We need to think of not knowing in a positive light. A lot of people don't do stuff because they think of not knowing. They think of lack of expertise and lack of knowledge, lack of awareness as a bad thing, and so we don't take action. So we need to flip that round. So we need to start, therefore, thinking about things that provide evidence for the idea that there is value in not knowing. Think about this quote by Aristotle, who said, "The more you know you don't know." What Aristotle was pointing out was the fact that the more knowledge and information and data that you pile on, the more awareness you have of how little you know. It's a funny catch-22, but it's a real thing. The more you know about a certain topic, the more constricted you can tend to become. Obviously, there's a lot of value in knowing plenty and reading books and all that stuff. You create new nodes in your mind with which to connect new ideas together. I think there's a lot of value in that, but I think there's also the risk of holding yourself back by knowing too much. So we've got to think about how there is value in knowing less. So think about what happens when you enter into a project and you know that you don't know everything, but what kinds of behaviors does that lead to? What kind of a dynamic will being someone who views themselves as more of a beginner's mind, doesn't know so much but is willing to interact in a positive way with whatever project is coming up? So think about the benefits. So You're more willing to listen. You're more willing to go slow. You're more willing to talk more slowly and communicate more slowly and give the project, whoever you're talking with, time and space so that you can hear everything that needs to be said, because you don't know everything. You're not going to gloss over important stuff. You're going to make sure that every little bit of information is picked up. You move more slowly, you speak more calmly. You're not in a rush to finish things. You're taking things in your stride. You're willing to hear different sides of the argument or the debate or the discussion, depending on the context in which you find yourself. Because of the simplicity of the structure in front of you, i.e. because you're a beginner in this case, or you don't know everything, you see things in a more minimal light. You see the very simple structure of what's in front of you. You're not weighed down by this complicated web of knowledge that you have built up that creates all these preconceptions before you've even started, if you see what I mean. So when you start a project and you've got a ton of knowledge in there, you're going to complicate things and you're going to follow one route. There was a quote by, I think, the Buddhist Zen guys who said something like, in a beginner's mind there are many possibilities. In an expert's mind there is only one possibility. So you create more possibilities through being someone who's willing to take on more knowledge through the process of starting the project. What's really interesting about approaching something new without being weighed down by all this knowledge is that you have this very simple view of what's in front of you. You're not weighed down by preconceptions. You're not weighed down by previous instructions and data. You're just seeing things for what it is in reality. You're seeing things in the moment. And that tends to lead to a more common sense, more from the gut approach to what you do. And that has a lot of power in it, if you see what I mean. So if you're starting something new and you have all these preconceptions, you're going to make things less creative for yourself. You're not able to open up new avenues and new possibilities because you're weighed down by this is how things should be, this is how I need to do things, rather than seeing things as they are in real time and thinking in terms of the common sense approach and going with what feels right, going with your gut. And your gut has a lot of intelligence in it because it's associated with your brain. Your gut is your brain and vice versa. So follow what feels right. So I hope this makes sense when it comes to the idea of not knowing enough and how reframing our ideas of not feeling perfect, not being perfect, and not being 100% ready in terms of knowing everything has actually got some very positive advantages to it. And when you can see the positive associated with not knowing, it becomes a lot easier to start taking actions in things we previously thought, oh no, we need to be perfect, we need to have been schooled, we need to have a degree to do this, we need to have a degree to do that. No, we don't. And there's a lot of positives to be found in someone who approaches things with a beginner's mind. I don't know if you've heard the story about this expert Buddhist Zen monk who got approached by someone who wanted to be taught the Zen philosophy. And he was a wealthy guy, a little bit arrogant. He went up to the Zen monastery where the Zen monk was sitting and he approached him. The Zen monk began filling this brass cup full of tea, and the student was waiting, and the monk continued to pour more and more tea into the cup until it started to rise to the rim and started pouring over the edge, and he continued to pour the tea. And then the student said, hey, you got to stop here, you're pouring too much, that's enough, don't you see what you're doing? And the teacher said, this is you, this is your mind, you have filled it to the brim, and all we're doing is adding more to your mind and overflowing it. So you need to have an empty mind in order to take on new knowledge. So the lesson there is that you need to empty your mind, you need to create a beginner's mind before you're ready to absorb the truth of Zen teaching. And this applies to any kind of skill, any kind of endeavor. There's a lot of value and a lot of power in not being the expert, in not being completely ready, and not feeling 100% perfect, and not creating the most 100% ready project before you submit it. So simply understanding how the beginner, the not ready, has all these advantages from slowing things down and being more open to new ideas and not assuming things and not having preconceptions. All these things are very, very valuable for someone who is going to move into something new, and use that positive association to start taking on more things. So my call to action for you today would be to keep learning, obviously, keep reading, keep taking on new information, but rather than holding back when it comes to starting something new that you know you should start, you know you should approach someone, you know you should start that conversation, whatever it is, start thinking about how you can move the pendulum towards action over preparation. And know that you don't need to be completely ready all the time. If you feel 60% ready before you start some big undertaking, some new job, you're ready. You're already ready, and you have the advantage of being a beginner and having a beginner's mind. So I hope that helped, guys. If you like this, do subscribe, smash that like button. Make sure you are following for new videos like this. Give me some ideas on videos you want to hear more about. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video.